Okay, so good day to everyone. We will be moving on to the discussion of our midterm topic. That would be the software installation and hardware assembly and disassembly. This would be the unit 2 of your FICAS 111. So the chapter 6 that needed to be discussed are the operating systems and installation. So what are the ILO or the intended learning outcomes that we need to understand of this lesson? First is we need to identify the hard drive setup of the computers, followed by the installing of the operating systems using the default settings. Then we need to create user accounts. Then we need to complete the installation, describe the custom installation options, and to manipulate the operating system that includes the directory structures. Okay, so first we have the hard drive setup. So as you all know that hard disk drive, or we call it the HDD, is one of the most important components when we are formatting a computer system or installing. No? So it's up to you if we have 10 terabyte or as you all know that again, HDD or solid state drives are the components that needed when we are doing installation of the operating system. Diyan kasi ilalagay yung OS. Whatever the operating system it is, if it's Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, or if you have a latest of Windows 11. Okay? So, lately, when we are doing installation of computer system, it's very important that we have the sources of this operating system. It's either nasa hard disk, no? If you will be continuing to install it, or else install nyo siya to a bootable flash drive, and then after the bootable flash drive, or else in a CD format. So you will be using CD-ROM. Okay, so meron tayong tinatawag na compact disc or the digital optical disc or digital video disc, versatile disc, DVD. Some of the operating systems that needed to be installed are there, and then the flash disk or the flash drive, the thumb drives, the USB disk, the USB flash drive. Kasi USB is the universal serial port, so yung saksakan. So we call it the thumb drives. So it can be bootable also. So we have the disk and the hard disk. Okay, so the hard disk, our example would be the floppy disk, mga diskette, and then we have the hard disk. Okay, so when we are installing an operating system, it is very important for you to know the specifications, okay, yung kakayanin ng specs when you are installing the OS. For example, you have a low specs computer system, installan nyo ng Windows 10. So hindi siya accurate. So you need to check first the minimum requirements of the operating system. It is very important to check the hardware requirements because some of the operating system will not run if the hardware specification is very low, or else it not would be supported. No, it will not be supported anymore by some of the upgrades and the updates. So when we are formatting, you need to prepare a file system to restore. Of course, when we are formatting also, you need to back up yung mga dapat tanggalin. Or else, i-save yung mga dapat i-save, tanggalin yung mga dapat tanggalin. At ang pinaka-importante dyan is when we are gathering the datas, back up. Okay? So those datas, those backups are very important. Especially pag hindi sa inyo yung computer. Nagpapaformat lang yan. Ang pinakamahirap kasi rito, pag nag-format ka na nag-install ka ng OS, dinilit mo lahat ng remaining files na meron dun sa hard disk. It would not be retrieved. Depends na lang yan dun sa setup ng installation nyo ng OS. kung i-override mo siya. So meron tayong tinatawag na file systems. File systems are common in different types of operating system. How do they manage files? So we have what we call the file allocation table. We have the FAT32. So it is a position of files on the disk using FAT and 32-bit addressing. Yung NTFS naman is a new technology file system. It uses journaling system to record change to the file system and master file table to record information about each file. So sa tingin nyo, anong ginagamit natin yan? So nandun tayo sa new technology file system. Because majority of the computer system are running in the 64-bit addressing computer. Parang wala na tayo dyan sa 32-bit. Okay. Next to that is we have the partition. Partition is how we split a physical drive into logical drives. For example, when we do installation, if you do not partition any part of the drives, local C lang yan. But if you want to divide it into logical parts, magiging local D, local E, local F, and so on and so forth. Depends on you, it would be a logical drives. Okay. So the terms used in hard drive setup, we have the primary partition. It is usually the first partition. There can only be up to 4 primary partition per hard drive. So 4 lang ang maximum. A primary partition can be subdivided into smaller section because that would be for the operating system. Extended partition, or we call it the free space on the hard drive, or takes the place of the primary partition. So there can be only one extended partition per hard drive. It can be subdivided into smaller section. Ang tawag doon is logical drives. So yung logical drives na yan, it would be a maximum of 3 to 4. So diyan natin sinesave yung mga backup datas ninyo. Active partition is the partition used by the operating system to boot the computer. So it is separate. So only one primary partition can be marked. Then we have the logical drive. So it is a section of an extended partition that can be used to separate information for the administrative purposes. Drive mapping naman is a letter that is assigned to a physical or logical drive. Cluster is pre-categorized of tinatawag nating file allocation unit. So it would be the smallest unit of space used for storing data. Then we have the track. It is complete circle around the hard drive platter. A track broken into groups of 512 bytes called sectors. Then we have the cylinder. It's a stack of tracks lined up of one top to another. So the term of a cylinder shape. So actually, the hard disk is commonly used right now, but for the generation ng mga 11th generation of computers and the 10th gen computers are using the solid state drives. So there is no disk behind that. We call it flash memory. So yun yung mga napaka mabilis na process na, no? We call it read and store. Yung ano kasi hard disk is read and write. So kaya mabagal pa siya, no? So how do we install the procedure for Windows operating system to install it? Unang-una is first, the Windows or the operating system can be used of 2 formats. Una, the FAT32 file system, which is addressable by 32-bit. Then we have the new technology file system commonly used right now, or the NTFS. To install the Windows operating systems, we need to format the partition and hard disk which are required. Okay, dapat may hard disk. There are 2 options for the file system, FAT32 and the new technology file system, or we call it the NTFS. So the format drive of partition and create the directory of the structure. Installing the operating system, we have the standard and formats that define the currency, the dates, times, and the numerals. Text input, language, the name of the person and the company, the product key, the computer name, administrator, password, date and time settings, the network settings, the domain or work group membership. So those are the things that we need to check when we're installing the operating system. If there are administrator password, you should know the administrator password kasi kayo maglalagay ng default niyan. Pero kung sila ang naglagay, nagpapaformat sila, you should know the administrator password. You can ask them. Computer name and including the product key. But majority of the operating system are in the modes of run with the product key. Automatic pag in-install, lalo na yung mga tinatawag nating operating system na crack nyo, no? O yung mga free in torrent. Okay, so to create accounts, the administrator account is automatically created when Windows operating system is installed. Okay, so it's very important first step. But basically, some of the Windows operating systems, especially if these are not connected in the internet, or we call it the tinatawag nating limited application access sa Windows 10 is they're not connected in the internet, they're not logged in into Microsoft accounts. So some of them have their personal accounts. Okay, some of them are using guest accounts. But the administrator accounts is very important when we are installing. So it is common practice for the administrator to create fictitious user accounts that test the system of a user. So some of them are using secure passwords, but some are not using passwords. Okay, to complete the installation, when the Windows operating system is finished with installation, the computer will reboot. Okay, will reboot and prompt you to log in for the first time. Actually, pag nag-log ang operating system, it's very common naman yan. Na once yan nasaksak nyo at nagpo-format kayo, aantayin nyo lang yan matapos. Magre-reboot yan. After the reboot is the setup. You will set the language, the time and date, and of course, the administrator accounts, okay, the users. So yan. Yan ang mamaya, later on, you will be seeing that. No? So the installation procedure for Windows OS, first is to format the partition and the hard disk which are required, so you can use non-partition space to create a new partition if desired. To begin an installation, you need to select an available partition and you need to press enter. So there are two options to the file system. We have the FAT32 and new technology file systems. So NTFS offers additional security. So ito yung common na ginagamit, no, ng mga setup ng mga operating system ngayon. Uses drive more efficiently. Yung FAT32 naman, file allocation table, may be required for other computer to access files. Okay, use FAT32 to get started. So we need to format the drives. That is very important. You need to remove the content of those drives. Kasi when you're installing, but if you buy a blank or let's say unused HDD hard disk or solid state drive, automatic naman yan na you don't need to format that, no? Papasok agad yung operating system doon. So the system will create a top-level directory of folder called the root directory. All data will be stored within the structure. Kaya sa program C files, nandun ang operating system, it can be seen in the local C, then we have the program files. And some of them, not only in the program files, you can see there the Windows and content for the System32. System32 would be the file directory system. That is for the operating system. So if you will be checking the device manager for conflicts, nandyan siya. So verify all the hardware is installed correctly by using device manager to locate problems and install the correct update drivers. Kasi once you already install the operating system, you need to install the drivers. So we have the system, hardware, device manager, control panel, performance and maintenance, including the system settings. So you need to check it to the device manager kung nagwo-work or nagpa-function yung drivers ng bawat hardware. Ito yung sa device manager. You need to check if there are some updates. Kasi yung update is very important. So makasabay yung ating hardware sa pag-function doon sa operating system. It's very important na may drivers. So look for warning icons. Ito yung titignan nyo. Pag nakita nyo yung yellow exclamation points, double click it and you will learn to trace the problems of it. If needed to install a separate drivers, you need to install a separate drivers. Some of them naman sa Windows 10 kasi ang maganda sa Windows 10, it is already have a complete drivers, especially those who are in 2021 versions. So expand categories, makikita nyo dyan. So, pag yan naman, walang nakitang errors, just ignore it. So, to describe directory structure, so in addition, the file attributes, these are also file permission. We call it the file permission. Windows XP, Windows 2000, using FAT32 and NTFS file system. One of the most important is about, we're talking about the security. But likewise, ito naman ay ginagamit pa rin even in the Windows 8, Windows 10, or including the Windows 11. Sa FAT32, it used in the environment where the same files may be to be accessed by multiple version of Windows. So earlier version of Windows can read and write to a FAT32 partition. So the security for FAT32 is not as rigorous as NTFS. So ang NTFS naman, or New Technology File System, it can support more larger files than FAT32. So provide more flexible security features and folder and files, and including sizes. So commonly right now we are using NTFS file system in Windows 10, 11, and including the Windows 8. So when we are converting partitions from FAT32 to New Technology File System using the convert.exe utility, so this will provide extra security advantage. So can we convert NTFS to FAT32, and can we convert FAT32 to NTFS? Yes. To restore the partition of FAT32, the partition would have been reformatted, data would be restored from the backup. So actually, common sa operating system naka-default na. Hindi na ginagalaw yung sa FAT32 and including the New Technology File System. So that's why the most important thing is, before converting, remember to back up the data, because the data is very important, especially pag hindi sa inyo. Okay? So remember to back up before anything else. What do you need to check when you are formatting a computer system? You need to check for your, una, if you have the hard disk, the solid state drive, you have the operating system inside the flash drive or inside the compact disk. Then, if you have a CD-ROM, much better. It's either an external or external CD-ROM. Much better, flash drive na lang para mas mabilis ang pagpo-format. Okay. Kanina, we discussed about the installation of the operating system. But before you are installing the operating system, it's very important for you to build the computer system. So tips on building a computer, first is to check the motherboard, the case, the processor, the memory, the hard drive, the video card, if there are video cards, there are sound cards, the removable storage, the keyboard, and the mouse. Let's start with the motherboard. Basically, with the motherboard, you should be very practical for it. No? Bumili na kayo ng mas magandang klase para mas matagal gamitin. You have the Gigabyte, Asus, and so on and so forth. Kung yan naman ay gagamitin nyo for online class, for gaming, hindi naman kayo super gaming, no? So you can use a, what we call the generic types of this type of board, no? Not a gaming type of board, yung may 4 na slots ng memory. 2 slots would be better, no? As long the motherboard would be supported by the processor that you will be purchasing for it. For example, you will be buying for Ryzen, you will be buying for Intel. So there are different types of board, no? There are boards for Intel, there are boards for AMD. There are also boards which are for ROG sticks, for G gaming. There are a lot of what you call this, memory slots. There are a lot of memory slots and what you call this, BR Ready, Aura Syncs. Tapos may lalagyanan na yan ng mga solid state drive, yung mga M2. Okay? Then, system unit case, syempre pagandahan ngayon. Much better if you are do a gaming computers, there is much ventilation. Ventilation is very important, no? Yung paglabas ng heat. Tandaan nyo yan, ha? Kasi pag umiinit, mas bumabagal ang process ng computer. Okay? So, much better kung maganda ang ventilation. So, nasa inyo kung ano yung klating gusto nyong system unit case, as long there is a good ventilation, the functions of the hardware will work properly. Every case, if it's this type of robotic cases, and so on and so forth. Processors, we have the Intel, and then we have the AMD. So those are two processors who are always having a battling in the market, no? So some of the processors of AMD has a built-in video card, while the processors of Intel, yung iba naman is naka-high definition lang. Okay? So if you will buy a good standard, you buy Intel. Pero if you are purchasing for what you call this, yung pangmasa, you should buy AMD. Even without video cards, video graphic cards, there is a what we call a discrete graphics built in sa mismong processor niya. Sa AMD processors, we have the 2019 generation, which are the AMD, kasi yung 2000 onwards, we have the AMD FX Unlock and then the A series. Sa memory naman, we are very familiar right now that we are on the generation of, what generation are we on? Of course, we are on the DDR4 going to DDR5, the dual dynamic RAM. So we are on the DDR4 right now up to 3600 to 3200s. So na 3600 na siya na frequency, napakabilis. Ibig sabihin, pag naka-DDR4 ka, mas mabilis yan. Then we have the hard drive and the solid state drive. Commonly, gumagamit pa rin naman tayo ng hard disk drive, those who have the budget. And those who have the, syempre, rich budget is yung solid state drive for those who are upgrading their computers. Okay, so mas mabilis. So how do we differ the hard drive and the solid state drive? So when we're talking about the SSD, it's talk about the faster performance kasi it read and stored. No vibration or noise. More energy efficient, at higit sa lahat, pag nabagsak, hindi nasisira basta-basta. Yung ano naman, HDD, mas cheaper siya per gigabyte. Totoo naman yun. Available in a large version, mabigat, pero the problem is mabagal. So for the video card or the GPU, there are two in the markets. We have the NVIDIA, we have the GeForce GTX, and we have the AMD or the Radeon graphics, no? Sa Radeon, meron din, eh, no? They are selling for a GPU. Pero yung mga RTX, okay, and including with the AMD, they are very aggressive in the market for, ano, no, to all this, providing new versions and new updates. So dapat pag latest ang GPU mo, ina-update ang drivers niyan sa operating system. Tsaka pa pinagbabasehan din yung mga GPU na yan, no? Mga video card na yan, kung saan lang siya pwede mag-run. Compatible na operating system at higit sa lahat, yung boards and processors. Even the memory. May compatibility issue rin yan. Di basta-basta bibili ka ng mataas, tapos talagyan mo sa luma. Naku po. Bukod sa bottleneck yan, di gagana yan. Purchasing parts, we need to know what is needed. Check the brands and reviews. Check the brands and reviews. Kung maganda ang brand, wag magtipid. Kung talagang makakatipid kayo, pero ang problem is hindi maganda ang quality, wag na. Maganda na yung bilhin nyo yung quality product para yung computer ninyo tumagal. Cross-check the prices. Know the right time to buy. Huwag bumibili pag masyadong mataas ang price, lalo na pag online classes, kaka-start pa lang, because nananamantala ang mga nasa industry. For the building process, we need to prepare the case. Configure the motherboard, assemble it. Assemble the CPU, the cards, the memory, the motherboard, I/O connectors, and the mouse. hook up the motherboard, ilagay. Floppy drive, pag wala na kasi yan, ano, floppy drive. Configuring the hard drive and CD-ROM. Actually, di na rin tayo naglalagay ng CD-ROM, no? And video card and hard disk drive, yun ang nilalagay natin including the SSD. So we need to check the work for it. So for the software installation, kagaya ng sabi ko sa inyo, it's very important to know the operating system that needed to be installed. We have the operating software, application software, and the installation. These are the recommended build. Unang-una, for online class, Windows 10, 8 gig RAM, much better, kasi medyo mataas kumain ng memory ang Windows 10. So, 3 GHz na processor, at least 2 cores above, SSD or HDD. Okay nang pang-online class yan. Windows 8.1, 8 and 7, 4 gig RAM, 2.50 GHz processor, SSD or HDD. Pero iba nagtutugi, gumagana pa rin yan. Yun nga lang, syempre, habang nag-upgrade kasi yung mga technology natin, kumakain ng mataas na frequency in terms of transmission of data. So for gaming naman, we have the Ryzen or Intel. It's up to you. You want to build the 16 gig RAM, 1650 or 1050, at least 4 gig GPU and a solid state drive, 350 GHz processors, 4 na cores, makapaglaro na kayo ng matino niyan. So how to tune up and upgrade your computers? Una, upgrade your hardware. Lahat naman pwedeng palitan ng SSD. But basically, pag pinalitan natin ng SSD kahit in lumang computer, huwag nyo nga-upgrade ng Windows 10. Lalo na kung lumang-luma ng computer. Pagbasehan nyo yung generation niya ng operating system. Kunyari, 2010 na manufacture. Hindi pang 2010 na operating system ang ilagay. Huwag nyo lagyan ng Windows 10. Baka isa yung pilay na pinabilis, no? Mabigla yan. RAM upgrade also. Can we increase the RAM? If there is a slot, additional slot is working. Sa laptop, ganun din. If there is additional slot na pwedeng idagdag. Cleaning of your personal computer is very important also. Huwag nyo hayaan bahayan niya ng clickable. How to boost up the performance of the computer for the laptop. Unang-una, bukod sa nililinis, nilalagyan ng rethermaling o thermal paste, ina-upgrade ng SSD, na-upgrade sa RAM, lagyan nyo ng cooling pad because cooling pad will help to maximize the performance of your computer. Sabi ko sa inyo, good ventilation, di ba? So meron din tayong mga nabibili dyan, kagaya nito sa laptop. Yung kagaya nitong O-Polar na vacuum tube siya, nasaksak dyan. So, ang maganda dyan, yung init nilalabas coming from the processor and the other type of hardware devices na nasa loob ng laptops. Ito rin, yung mga RGB fan, familiar kayo dyan, di ba? Mga fan na will help to exhaust or to release the heat inside the computer system, especially on the CPU. May mga ilaw. Yung may mga liquid cooling crystal, yung iba gumagamit pa ng mga liquid crystal, cooling crystal, no? And then you can use some software application utility to scan the operating system if there are errors, yung mga cleaners, ngayon, Recuba to recover the file. Then yung tinatawag natin to check the hard disk are the hard disk sentinel. Kung kamusta na yung hard disk mo. Okay, to check kung walang bad sectors, etc. etc. So prevention is better than repair. So, in short, if you are in the field of information technology, it is very important for you to check your computers as always.